Hey guys, it's Natty, and I want you to stop what you're doing. Yes, you. And go and check out my podcast, Naughty by Natty. I read, share, and explain stories that are sexual, forbidden, fact, fiction, good, bad, ugly, naughty, nice, not so nice, and so much more. I also interview amazing people with amazing stories to tell. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast or submit yours, your brother, uncle, cousin, aunt, sister, whoever's music, you can email me at naughtybynatty@gmail.com and you can hear it here. So, what are you waiting for?
I have a feeling the number of times we cuss in this episode is greater than the number of times a psychic detective has cracked a case. You have been warned, content is not suitable for all listeners. Welcome! You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are inherently shitty.
And I'm Amy, and I tend to believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I'm a total skeptic. So I'm laughing because my whole shirt came unbuttoned while we were talking.
Oh! Amy's doing the striptease.
Button up my shirt. Where were we?
Ooh, I don't know. Can't remember.
Anyway, I'm Amy. That's Krista. What are we covering today?
We are covering psychic detectives.
Okay, so I know I'm the one who suggested this topic, but I was kind of like, it's a little funny that I'm the one telling the history of psychic detectives. So if
it sure is.
And if you are a big believer out there, I am sorry. I'm probably going to be a big buzzkill. My first thing was, what the hell is a psychic detective, right?
What is it?
So I looked it up, and it can be defined as a person who lies about having paranormal psychic abilities, and they waste the police's, detectives, and the community, and basically everyone and your mother's included time.
You and your mama. Your mama's so wasting my time.
Anyway, but
that tracks with my guy, because real waste of time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But really how we want to actually define it is it's a person who investigates crimes by using bullshit paranormal psychic abilities. So how do these whack-ass detectives do supposed detective work?
How?
I'm going to tell you. Okay. The first is through retrocognition. Do you know what that means?
I could guess.
Okay.
You're going back in time in your mind's eye.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So it basically means the power to perceive past events.
Yes. That makes sense.
They also help police through, I hope I'm saying this right, psychometry? Okay, well, I think the internet's telling me it's psychometry. Okay, let me get back into this bullshit. Okay.
This is good.
So what is psychometry? It's basically when a psychic uses an object to learn about a past event.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so think about I killed my next door neighbor with a knife.
Okay.
And Bob, the psychic next door, comes over and he's like, hey, I want to see the evidence at the crime scene. And so he finds a knife because at this point I've fled. I'm leaving the country. He holds the knife, and this is when he claims through touching the knife that he can make associations with the crime.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I envision this very clearly. Yes.
And supporters and people who are, in my mind, are brainwashed state that the object may potentially harvest energy that communicates the history of an object.
Okay.
So that is a belief.
Oh, so they do that shit on Ghost of Energy all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the knife would confess. He'd be like, yeah, I killed that mofo.
Got it. Yeah, that shit makes total sense.
Yeah, so that's one way.
Okay.
So another way psychic detectives solve crimes is through telepathy. telepathy is when people can communicate. We're not using any verbal or physical cues. It's like they're able to read someone's mind. And then there's dowsing, which
didn't we cover that? Dowsing?
We talked about it a little bit. I looked it up again because I just wanted to make sure I actually knew what it was. So dowsing in occultism is when you actually make a pendulum and they use a Y-shaped metal rod. And they use it to find hidden substances.
Okay.
So, for example, people use it to find underground water, hidden treasures. You can think about archaeological remains. And then for our case and our story, what we're covering tonight, psychic detectives use it to find dead bodies.
Okay. That makes sense.
Or maybe like evidence for a crime scene. And the tradition of using dowsing actually started in the Middle Ages. This next part probably doesn't need to be said, but the science community has discredited that it helps anything.
Okay.
But the next part I'm going to say, which is freaking crazy and blew my mind. However, there's no scientific, backing of using this practice, but a PhD student in Oxford somehow, and I'm assuming it's through a research project. Okay. And this wasn't well known. Found out that the majority of water companies in the UK actually use dowsing rods, which is basically considered a folk magic.
Wow.
And they use it to discover and find
water?
To find underwater pipes and to find underground water.
Does it actually work though?
Well, it must if they're using it. I'm assuming.
That's what I'm thinking. That's why I'm that's interesting.
And the student reported that 10 of the 12 major companies in England actually use dowsing, and they use divining rods, or what it's sometimes called as witching sticks.
Yeah, I know. I've seen those.
To find underground water. And then once this study came out, obviously companies were like, well, we need to do a press release, have a statement about us using this what is seen as folk magic. And totally to cover their asses, they said that the practice wasn't endorsed by the company, but they do allow individuals to use this practice. And then they reiterated it's harmless and it's free. So you're not wasting your money by having people use a practice that has no scientific backing. Yep. Which I thought was really interesting.
Good PR move, but not ethical. Again, ethics at my top of my list, but
And then we have clairvoyance, which we definitely have discussed before.
We sure have.
So how would you define it?
Inner seeing. And then clairsentience is inner feeling. And then clairaudience is inner hearing.
Okay, cool. And then we have another tactic they use is remote viewing. And this is basically how I understood it, is being able to sense or see something with your mind.
Yes.
And you're able to see something that is not near you or something that would be impossible to see. So if you're a creeper and you want to look into someone's house behind that brick wall, you can remote view.
Yes. Yep.
Since I'm peppering in the episode with cool facts, I have another one. But did you know that during the Cold War that the U.S. and the Soviet Union both hired psychics who supposedly had the talent of remote viewing to spy on each other?
Not that part. We talked about the astrologer in World War II, but not... Whoa, no.
Yeah. No.
I did not know that.
There's a whole story behind it, and we should definitely do that in a separate episode one day.
That's kind of funny that they're like, I have a psychic on you. No, I have a psychic on you.
And they honestly believed, well, not when I say they, I assume some of the population believed that these psychics would basically be able to find out top secret information, and it'd be an advantage to them to fight the war. So again,
that's cool.
Supernatural kind of fueling and being a part of a war tactic.
War, yeah, it's wild.
Which I'm sure actually happens way more than we realize, since we've slowly are starting to come across it.
Yeah, it's a big theme if you think about it. Christianity would have been technically folklore for a lot of people that were colonized by it. So I don't know, it's fascinating.
To summarize, psychic detectives use clairvoyance, remote viewing, dowsing, telepathy, psychometry, if I'm saying that right, clairvoyance, and retrocognition, a mouthful, but sometimes that's also referred to as postcognition to help solve cases.
Okay.
And then often in a murder investigation, you'll find that a lot of psychics claim they can communicate with a murdered victim.
Mm-hmm.
Psychics have been used by kings, military leaders, religious leaders. Most of the time they're being asked to like predict important events.
Sure.
Or like the outcome of like a war, for example. Yep. And psychics were not used for criminal investigation until 1845.
Oh, that's later than you would think.
Yeah, it was the first time. And because it was so long ago, the details of the case are unknown.
Okay.
I think like whatever findings and reports they had about it have been...
Yeah, they didn't keep those type of records probably. Yeah.
And the idea of psychic detectives really became popular through shows like...
TV shows. Yes, I'm going to cover some of them.
The Medium, Alison Bois, which we covered. Yep. I think that was like...
my very first story on Bewitched Banter.
Yeah. The X-Files and The Fringe, which I don't know The Fringe. Do you?
I don't know, but my dad watched X-Files like religiously growing up, and I remember watching it with him. And I think that's why I like weird, creepy shit, to be honest, because of that show.
Oh, I used to try to watch X-Files, but half time I was such a scaredy cat.
As a kid, it was scary.
I couldn't make it through half the episodes.
Yeah. I have some on my case that we'll be discussing that involve a psychic detective.
Nice. So my next question is, are psychic detectives effective, and do they actually help the police force? My answer to this is going to be, depends who you talk to.
Oh, yeah? Not a straight up hard no, huh?
Well, no.
From others. Not
from others.
Yeah, wow.
I'm saying, if you ask me, no.
No, but I'm surprised that others even aren't a hard no.
Well, obviously, psychics have to vouch for their ass. If they're not selling their magic or... No.
Yeah.
Two of the most famous psychic detectives, Nancy Meyer and Noreen Rayner. Do you know them?
No, neither.
Perspectives are vastly different from most police officers or the FBI. So if you log on their website, this is when I said depends who you ask.
Okay.
You can find statistics from them claiming that they tend to help enforcement agencies on a regular basis. And the two of them combined, I believe, claim they've helped over 600 murder investigations. And they claim to have a success rate as high as 90% of being able to find the guilty culprit. But however, when a former FBI profiler named Clint Van Zandt was asked about working with psychic detectives, he replied the following, quote, "In my 25 years as an FBI agent, I never saw a psychic provide anything but information so general it was useless in any case." Drop the mic.
Bam. Pew.
The general idea that he discussed and several other FBI agents and other policemen, like, I couldn't think of their name. But basically they said that they find that psychics, when they have worked with them in the past, is that they suggest just enough scenarios that eventually they feel like they might land on one that could actually potentially be true.
Oh.
So when the case is solved, they can be like, oh, I predicted it.
Got it.
Over the past 70 years, several studies have been conducted through the science community to find out if ESP, extrasensory perception, is really a thing. And they did run some interesting trials. The conclusion is that when they ran these trials and tested these psychics, that an everyday Joe stood the same amount of chance to be able to predict the future. And there's actually been limited research on... So there's a lot of research that's been conducted on, do people have psychic powers? But there hasn't been as much research on, are psychic detectives effective? Do they really yield results?
Yeah.
But there is one, and I thought was really interesting. I mean, there's more than one, but the one I'm going to cover one.
Sure.
So one of the main studies, it happened in 1979, and it was in LA, and it was the LA Police Department actually that conducted this survey.
Okay.
And they wanted to see how effective psychic detectives really are to help solve a case. In the local area, they invited 12 psychics to be part of the trial. So 8 of them were full-time practicing psychics. It was like their main source of income. Most of them would like do psychic readings. And then 4 of them, they considered themselves psychics, but it wasn't their job per se.
Okay.
But it was something they believed they had the power for. And the study centered around 4 cases, and 2 of them were solved. And 2 of them were not solved.
Were 50-50, like you said.
2 unsolved cases. And the psychic, they invited each psychic into a room one at a time, and they were given an envelope. And in the envelope was evidence from a crime scene.
Okay, and so that goes back to like touching the object thing that you called it.
Yes, remote viewing.
Thanks.
Yes.
I'm like, that thing. I should know this as the believer here, but
the psychics, so they're given evidence, and they're like, this is crime 1, but they're not given any information about the crime that was committed. And they're asked to open the envelope and provide their thoughts. Like, what do you think happened by holding this object, right? So there are 4 crimes. They presented them with 4 different pieces of evidence. For crime number 1, 2 of the 12, so 2 out of the 12, not a very good statistic, were able to correctly identify 4 of the 21 possible indicators of what happened at the crime.
wow.
And the study states that statistically, this is not, that's just like a better than a chance. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the same possibility of guessing correctly.
Okay.
And for the other 3 crimes, the results were all very similar.
Oh, man.
So then they invited a control group in, and it was made up of several college students.
Okay.
And these college students...
You know they got paid for that study. I got paid for my rent.
yeah. But these college students are just your average people, didn't claim to have any psychic abilities, were not really fans of true crime.
Mm-hmm.
After the experiment was completed, they noticed that the psychics and the college students had the same likelihood of guessing what happened at the crime.
Okay.
But one thing that the college students may not have, but psychics do have, is that they're really good at tooting their own horn.
I was about to say bullshit, but similar. Yes.
Very similar. A lot of people say is they're very good at self-promotion. Yeah. Toot toot. Beep beep. Even though the psychics didn't perform any better than the students in the experiment, the psychics actually walked away from the experiment and publicly told others that they did such an amazing job at knowing what happened at the crime.
They were lying. They were hustling.
And even one of I guess the experiment must have had some like press and media about it. And
of course. Someone's always fascinated if it's real or not. So yeah.
Yeah, and one of the psychics actually went on TV and she was being interviewed, or she or he, they didn't disclose who it was. During the show, when they're being interviewed, they're telling the interviewer, like, basically that they were, like, when they conducted the experiment, that they were, like, stunned at how accurate she was and just, like, floored at her psychic abilities.
Oh, but she was lying hardcore, obviously.
Yeah, so that basically, to me, summarizes psychics are great at lying.
Well, we covered con artists, and psychics technically are 99% of them.
And my next question is...
Uh-oh.
If this experiment and other experiments have taken place, why do the police work with psychics if there's no proof that they can't help solve cases at all?
Right. So I was going to say if they even still do work with them anymore. But
from what I gathered, it happens a lot less than the public assumes.
Which, according to this, is good, right? If
yeah.
Not really.
It's more that I think as entertainment consumers, like we love to watch TV, Netflix, Hulu. I mean, everyone's streaming stuff endlessly.
Right.
I can't talk. That we get the impression that psychic detectives are more involved in a lot of cases, and that's not the case at all. From what I found, it was in the past 10 years, I don't know how they conducted this search, but through Google somehow, they were able to figure out about in 10-year span, so you have to remember how many crimes happen in a 10-year span. Only 16,000 times have psychics really played a role in police investigations.
Okay.
An estimate. I mean, obviously not spot on, but that's not really that many times, really, on the scheme of things.
And that was nationwide? Sorry.
Yeah, nationwide. Okay. The majority of police departments actually prohibit the use of using a psychic in investigative
that makes sense. That makes sense.
And really, when a psychic becomes more involved in a case, it's not because the police so much ask the psychic to be involved. It more comes down to when a family member, and usually it's because a family member is distraught. They're not getting the answers. Right. It's been years
we
and
covered
years
that
past.
way back in Ep 1 and how psychologically effed up that is to do to a distraught parent or family member.
Yeah, but usually it's the family member that's reaching out to the psychic, bringing them into the investigation. It's not actually the police.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and another tactic, which I thought was super fascinating when they do actually use the psychic, is when they have a suspect, right? Mm-hmm. But they're not able to nail down the suspect. And they know that the suspect is a person who tends to be a little bit into the spooky, the supernatural, and they believe in like the paranormal. They actually sometimes have in the past brought in psychics, and they will tell the suspect, hey, we are talking to a psychic about this case. And this tactic is that it uses as like a fear tactic to
get them to confess first.
Yes.
Whoa,
and that's
cool.
And that's actually worked a few times where they said they were talking to a psychic and then someone confessed.
Whoa. I guess that would work on me probably, huh?
Maybe. I don't know about after this podcast, though. Would you really confess?
No. Also, I do want to reiterate, this is going way back in the Wayback Machine. I covered psychic mediums in their very first episode, and I was a full staunch believer before we started this podcast, and I have come to the realization that 99.99% of folks out there are frauds. But I do believe in the ability for some humans to have a gift still. So I just wanted to point that out. And I'm still, I still believe in some type of magic, if you will. I don't know what other word to use right now, but like some mystical powers.
And I mean, I'm kind of painting cops and like the police force and the FBI in like one big brushstroke, because there's obviously certain individuals who do believe that psychics can play a role in like criminal investigations and be successful. And one of the really more well-known, I mean, I'm not part of this world, so I don't know this person, but it was Robert Ressler. And he was an FBI agent, and he's actually the one who is coming up with the term serial killer.
Yeah, but I was going to say that. I covered him on serial killers. Yep. That's why that name sounds familiar.
Yep. And thanks to him, Noreen Reiner, a psychic detective, she's if you kind of do a quick Google search, you're going to find her name at the top of the list. Thanks to him and her partnership with him, she really became famous for being a psychic detective, and she would work cases with him, and he would invite her to work on cases with him. And the way she caught his attention was, I guess, like she must have publicly predicted that Ronald Reagan was going to be shot in 1981.
Oh, God.
And that's how the two of them got together, I'm assuming.
Wow.
And then Robert would also like endorse her. He would encourage other agencies to work with her.
I'm so shocked to hear that, because he, after studying him for our serial killers episode, I would not picture a man that smart and like detective-y, that like hard masculine vibe to believe in this.
So is it the Mindhunter guy?
Yes.
Oh,
yep.
I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, he's not the main one, but he was at the FBI when they were there together on the behavioral sciences unit, and Robert Ressler coined the serial killer, and then John, oh my God, I'm blanking on his last name, Jesus Christ, the other guy was the Mindhunter guy.
Okay.
But they were on the same unit.
Okay. Cool. Because of him, I mean, Noreen was invited actually to speak at an FBI academy in Virginia in 1981. And then if you log on her website... So this is, again, goes all into who do you ask, how successful she was. She claims that she helped with solving, or she's worked on 600 unsolved cases in 38 states and in 6 foreign countries. And she also claims that her paranormal powers should be used only, I like this part, as a last resort. And obviously people should seek out the police first.
Okay.
One of the cases she worked on was in Halifax, and the regional police hired her to help solve the murder of Kimberly McAndrew.
Okay.
So Kimberly was murdered in August 1989, and detectives brought in Noreen, and they interviewed her, right? And she was going to use psychometry. Do you remember what that is?
The object thing.
Yes. Because I mixed up remote viewing and psychometry earlier.
That's right. Because when you gave them the envelope, I was like, isn't that psychometry? But I
psychometry is when you're looking at the object. And they asked her, like, if she could channel any, like, if she had any senses or if she knew anything about the murder victim. So, again, remember what she said on her website. And then they reported that Noreen basically just sent them on a wild goose chase.
Oh, no.
And just sent, like, endless vague statements. Came up with, like, multiple scenarios just hoping she would land one right.
Oh, shit.
And, I mean, that's pretty much a wrap. I mean, I don't know how long I have to go on to tell you it's all bullshit. I mean, I could cut to the chase right now.
Well,
I mean, that's my take of it all. It's all just people conning people, especially desperate people.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no respect for these people.
This really brings up our first episode, right? Like, truly, like, it sucks because I came to find how much bullshit it really, really, really is. And now I'm like, I sound like Amy talking about it, and it kind of breaks my heart because I really did want to believe in this ability. And again, I still do, I think. But what I think is the people that really do have the gift don't go around making people pay for it or fooling them. Do you know what I mean? I think it's more of like a, you don't talk about it, you just be about it kind of thing.
But do you think in a certain sense you just want to believe, but you really don't deep down?
No, I still believe. I've had my own experiences, like I said, so.
I'll let you believe.
So,
I mean, it's harmless. No. Well, I don't actually think it's harmless.
It's not all of it, isn't it? Especially when you have people that take advantage of others. But I know I do. I absolutely believe in a certain amount of people to have that ability.
Not on this planet.
A slim amount. But again, they're not out there soliciting it. So
how do you know that if you don't know anyone who actually has the power?
I don't know it for sure, but
they could be assholes.
They could be.
For all we know.
Maybe.
But anyway, folks, that is Psychic Detective. Again, more con artists, more shitty people. That's what we do at Bewitched Banter.
Yeah, uncover the shittiness of all humans, which I absolutely believe. That you can't change my mind on. All right, well then, happy almost St. Patrick's Day / week.
Don't drink too much green beer and have green shit. Talking from experience here.
And coming from someone who was real stomach sick the last 5 days, definitely don't do that.
Yeah, I did that in college. I was like, ooh. Anyway, that's probably a little TMI.
Oh, but on that note, St. Patrick's Day is also Allie's birthday. Cheers, Allie. Love you, beat it. And we're old bitches now. And then also my parents' dog Ziggy's birthday. He's going to be 13.
Tune in on Thursday. We'll be telling our stories.
Tune in
on Thursday. In all seriousness, tune in or else. Okay. Peace, Bewitches.
Bewitches beware.
Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchedbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Emails at bewitchedbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcast edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt. As always, if you enjoyed, please rate, review, and subscribe.